Dylan Johansen's long, purposeful strides carried his lean frame across High Street to a grassy area on the west side of the Ohio State House. He had the straight-back gait of a military man defending his country, which is precisely what he felt he was doing. He had been up late for the last 3 nights preparing for this legal reform rally, which had been the perfect tonic while Benny pulled all-nighters working on the OAir bankruptcy. Dylan was followed by a young man pulling a dolly with 3 cardboard banker's boxes. He strolled past a vinyl sign that declared, "Legal Reform Rally," and walked up to a laminated wood podium between 2 large black speakers. His assistant stacked the boxes in front of the podium. He looked out to the crowd of 200 or so, many of whom carried signs. "Legal reform now! End the age of lawyers! Power to the people, not lawyers!" Dylan pushed the rolled-up sleeves of his white Oxford to his biceps. It had been 15 years since he had left active duty, but his sculpted forearms showed he was ready for combat if Uncle Sam asked. "Good afternoon, everyone," he began. The crowd cheered and pumped their signs up and down. "I don't have to tell you that something's terribly wrong with America." The crowd cheered loudly. Johansen smiled but motioned with 2 hands for them to quiet down. "Thank you for your enthusiasm, everyone. As I was saying, something is terribly wrong with America." He pointed to his chest. "I can feel it." He pointed to the crowd. "You can feel it." He threw his arms out wide. "We all can feel it." The crowd cheered, but Johansen motioned again for quiet. "Our federal and state governments are teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. Businesses are leaving Ohio, as well as the rest of the country, and moving overseas because of extraordinarily high legal expenses. Our schools are failing. Our healthcare system has failed and is getting worse. What do these problems have in common? Bad law. Bad, that is, unless you're a lawyer. My fellow Ohioans, it is time to end the age of lawyers and establish a legal system that works for the people, not against them." He pumped his left fist into the air. The crowd roared. Johansen smiled and breathed it in, as a light wind blew several strands of his sandy hair out of place. 6 years of lobbying for this cause, and folks were finally taking it seriously. Momentum was on his side. Let me tell you a quick story. Before I went to law school, the school's promotional literature proudly proclaimed that I would be trained to be an architect of society. How true and how sad. Indeed, America is constructed as a legal industry would like. Every man, woman, and child, every human interaction, every product we build or use, even every animal, vegetable, and mineral is a revenue source for lawyers. In the age of lawyers, America is buried under a mountain of laws, rules, and regulations that are bankrupting our state and our nation and killing our economy. This is the house that the architects of society designed. The crowd booed. In the legal reform bill I have before you, I offer serious solutions to serious problems. First, I propose an overhaul of medical malpractice law. Healthcare costs are ruining the federal and Ohio budgets, and every year hundreds of billions of dollars are wasted on defensive medicine. Our broken malpractice system is the main culprit. I also propose reforms for civil service and education. The Ohio government runs incredibly inefficiently, and our outdated, broken civil service laws deserve a lot of the blame. Also, America spends far more per pupil than any other country in the world, yet our children keep falling farther and farther behind. Our education system is bankrupting the state, and Ohio, like most of the rest of the country, is becoming less competitive in global markets every year because we graduate students who don't have the basic skills to compete with workers from places like Thailand and South Korea. Finally, I support major overhaul to our civil litigation system. Companies in America waste 2 to 3 times more money on legal fees than any other country in the world. Companies routinely file bogus suits against one another as a business strategy. Our broken civil litigation system makes it possible, and that absolutely must come to an end. Dylan pointed out to the crowd with his index fingers extended. My fellow Ohioans, the time is ripe for legal reform. Our federal and state governments are going bankrupt. Our economy is struggling, and bad law is a big part of the reason. We cannot allow the legal industry to continue to gorge itself on the flesh and blood of the country, killing our economy and busting budgets nationwide. Ohio, it is time for a change. Please support the Ohio Legal Reform Bill of 2029, and together we can end the age of lawyers. The crowd roared, and Johansen pumped his fists in glory. As the cheering subsided, he walked to the front of the podium, and he and his assistant began passing out copies of the bill to the enthusiastic supporters. A man in a gray suit walked up to his side. "Mr. Johansson." Dillon turned and offered a copy. The man shook his head. "You know that you're going to fail, don't you?" Dillon's face tightened, and he squinted at the man with his light blue eyes. Finally, he shook his head. "Not this time. This time we will succeed. We have to. We don't have much time left." The man smirked. "You're going up against some of the most powerful people in the world. The history of the world, really. Who are you, pal? A lawyer?" "No, just a friend." He smacked Johansson gently on the shoulder. "And as your friend, I'm telling you to give up this legal reform nonsense." "Why would I do that?" "Because you're stepping on the toes of powerful people, and I don't want you to get hurt." Johansson puffed up his chest and pointed at the man. "Are you threatening me?" The man smiled. "Just watch yourself, Johansson." He turned and headed toward the State House. Dillon took a deep breath and returned to passing out copies of his reform bill. A half-dozen men snuck around the edge of a single-story, flat-roof building. As they slunk past the front of the building, they smashed the spotlights that illuminated the front of the building and the company's sign, North Fab. The men shook spray paint cans like baby rattles, popped off the lids, and began redecorating the front of the building with a chorus of hisses. They were done in 10 minutes and jogged to the chain-link fence that protected Nate and Cassie North's company vehicles. One of the men pulled out a bottle and lit the gasoline-soaked rag that stuck out of the neck. He hurled it over the fence and it smashed through a windshield, immediately filling the cab of the delivery van with flames. They launched a dozen more Molotovs, and in less than a minute, North Fab's small fleet of vehicles was engulfed in flames. It was just after 1 in the morning when Nate North's cell phone buzzed noisily on a wooden nightstand and blared the Ohio State fight song. He and Cassie popped upright, and he grabbed the phone and flipped it open. "Yellow, North. Who the hell's calling at this hour?" Cassie scowled and tried to make out the caller's words. "You're shitting me," North said. "Sorry, kidding me." "All right, I'll be right down." "What is it, honey? Is Little Buck in trouble?" Their son had been in 2 bar fights and picked up a DUI in the last year alone. "Well, he might be, but that's not what the call was about. It was the cops. Someone burned our delivery trucks." He got up and walked toward the closet. "The union?" Cassie asked. "Probably, but I won't know until I get down there." He slid up a pair of jeans to the underside of his hairy belly and grabbed a belt. "If it was, I'll snap their damn necks if I ever see any of them out on the street." "Please be careful, Nate. I know you think you're a tough guy, but if it was the union, these guys mean business." He pulled a gray sweatshirt over his head. "I mean business too, honey. It's those worthless turds I fired who should be scared." Cassie got up from bed and slid her cotton nightgown over her head. "I'm going with you, honey. I don't want you to do something rash." Nate had a temper and a smart mouth, which was one thing when dealing with salesmen or steel workers, but quite another if he was going to be talking to the police. Nate dismissed her with a wave. "I'm coming, and that's final. North Fab is my company, too." He shrugged his shoulders. "Suit yourself." "I'll call our insurance company while we're on the way. Our attorney, too. If the fire's very big, the news might come out, and the last thing we need is a pissed-off Nate North talking to a reporter." He smiled and held his arms out. "I'm a teddy bear, honey. That's what you say." Cassie pulled up a pair of sweatpants and slipped on flip-flops. "A teddy bear with a smart mouth. Now get your butt moving, teddy bear."